The personal luxury car, an American institution on 4 wheels. The formula? Very simple. Take a large family car platform, lose a pair of doors, lather it in all the luxurious accoutrements of the era, and then nail as much leather and chrome to it as possible to make it all shiny. From the 1950s through the 1990s, the personal luxury car was the king of American aspiration, and the Lincoln Continental Mark V was perhaps the final great example of this heroic automotive equation. This was a car not so much parked as moored. Produced for the 1977, 1978, and 1979 model years, it stretched more than 19 feet from bumper to bumper, carried enough vinyl and chrome to furnish a fashionable nightclub, and represented the grand finale of the traditional, full-size, American, personal luxury coupe. It arrived during an awkward period of fuel shortages, emissions regulations, and growing pressure for smaller cars, yet it responded by becoming longer, more formal, and more conspicuous than ever. Subtlety had clearly been invited to the planning meeting, but had apparently been unable to find a parking space. The Mark V belonged to a lineage that began long before the 1970s. The original Continental had been developed in 1939 as a personal automobile for Ford President Edsel Ford, using Lincoln Zephyr mechanical components beneath an elegant body distinguished by a long hood, a short rear deck, and an externally mounted covered spare wheel. It entered limited production and became one of the most admired American designs of the pre-war period. The Continental Mark II of 1956 and 1957 revived the idea as an exceptionally expensive, carefully constructed luxury coupe, although its price and production costs made it more prestigious than profitable. The modern Mark series began with the Continental Mark III, introduced during 1968 as a 1969 model. Developed under Ford executive Lee Iacocca, it combined Thunderbird-derived engineering with an upright Rolls-Royce-inspired grille, concealed headlights, a long hood, and a simulated spare tire bulge on the trunk lid. It gave Lincoln a direct rival to the Cadillac Eldorado and became a profitable success. The larger Mark IV followed for 1972, adding oval opera windows and even more formal styling. By the middle of the decade, the Mark had become one of America's most recognizable symbols of personal luxury. The Mark V was intended to continue that success while appearing entirely new. Its design had complicated roots. Some of its themes could be traced to an alternative proposal developed in the late 1960s for the car that became the Mark IV. Under Ford design chief Jean Bordenat, Don Della Rosa supervised the production design of the Mark IV's replacement. Designer Richard Dick Nesbitt also prepared a major 1973 presentation for Henry Ford II, using sharply creased forms and influences that ranged from the Continental Mark II to pre-war sporting automobiles. The eventual Mark V combined these ideas into a cleaner, more angular shape than the rounded Mark IV. The underlying structure was less revolutionary. The Mark V retained the Mark IV's 120.4-inch wheelbase and traditional front-engine, rear-wheel drive arrangement with a separate frame, coil-sprung front suspension, and a coil-sprung live rear axle, located by trailing arms. Ford nevertheless reduced weight through thinner glass, high-strength steel, lighter components, and increased use of plastics and aluminum. Depending on equipment and the comparison being made, the new car was several hundred pounds lighter than the Mark IV. Although a Mark V still weighed roughly 4,800 to 5,000 pounds. It had gone on a diet, but nobody was about to mistake it for a salad. The Mark V measured 230.3 inches long, 79.7 inches wide, and approximately 52.9 inches high. Its wheelbase remained 120.4 inches. It was the longest two-door automobile Ford had marketed and one of the largest post-war production coupes built in the United States. Its doors were correspondingly enormous, making entry dignified when there was room and mildly athletic when there was not. Although its proportions were familiar, its body was more sharply tailored than that of its predecessor. The hood seemed to extend toward the next county, ending at a tall radiator-style grille flanked by concealed headlights. A raised center section and strong fender creases made the front appear formal and architectural. Functional vertical louvers sat behind the front wheels, while pronounced wheel-opening flares gave the sides additional shape. Those flares had originally been created for exceptionally wide Michelin tires considered during development. The special tires were dropped, but the flares remained, rather like a ballroom built for guests who never arrived. At the rear, the Mark V preserved the traditional Continental decklid hump, which suggested an external spare wheel without requiring anyone to wrestle one off the trunk. Narrow vertical taillights were incorporated into blade-like rear fender extensions. Stylists experimented with lamps that wrapped across the tops of the blades, but consumer clinics reportedly preferred the simpler vertical arrangement. The resulting tail was formal, unmistakable, and wide enough to make following traffic feel as though it had encountered a luxury apartment building. Oval opera windows continued as one of the Mark series' defining features. Vinyl roofs, landau treatments, coach lamps, pinstriping, color-keyed moldings, and turbine-style aluminum wheels allowed the basic shape to be decorated in countless ways. A painted metal roof was technically standard in 1977, while full and landau vinyl roofs were optional, but most buyers preferred the traditional padded appearance. Painted roofs remained available in 1978 and became uncommon enough to be distinctive. By 1979, the bare-painted roof had disappeared from the regular ordering choices, ensuring that the final Mark Vs would carry their expected portion of vinyl. Inside, the Mark V was designed less like a cockpit than a private sitting room that happened to contain a steering wheel. Deeply padded seats were offered in leather, velour, cloth, or combinations chosen through Lincoln's numerous color and trim groups. Wood-tone appliques stretched across the instrument panel and doors, and the thick carpeting seemed capable of concealing small household objects indefinitely. A Cartier day and date clock added an appropriately fashionable touch. Standard or commonly fitted equipment included power steering, four-wheel power disc brakes, automatic temperature control air conditioning, power windows, a six-way power driver's seat, a power radio antenna, concealed headlights, and extensive interior courtesy lighting. Lincoln's SureTrack rear-wheel anti-lock braking system was available rather than universal. Other options included power door locks, speed control, tilt steering, a power passenger seat, a glass moonroof, an automatic headlight system, illuminated entry, remote mirrors, different radios, and enough electrical convenience features to keep a service manual pleasantly occupied. Power came from carbureted Ford V8 engines connected to a 3-speed C6 select shift automatic transmission. For 1977, the standard engine was a 400 cubic inch, or 6.6-liter, V8 with a 2-barrel Motorcraft carburetor. In its initial Mark V specification, it produced approximately 179 net horsepower and 329 pound-feet of torque. The optional 460 cubic inch, or 7.5-liter, V8 used a 4-barrel carburetor and produced about 208 horsepower and 356 pound-feet of torque. The 460 was unavailable in California because it could not satisfy the state's emissions requirements. Neither engine turned the Mark V into a sports car, but that had never been the assignment. The large V8 supplied low-speed torque, quiet cruising, and the ability to move the car with appropriate dignity. Contemporary testers found the standard 400 decidedly leisurely. A tested Mark V could require roughly 12 seconds to reach 60 miles per hour, while less favorable combinations were slower still. The car was happiest once it had reached highway speed, where its soft suspension, extensive insulation, long wheelbase, and considerable mass created a calm, isolated ride. Quick direction changes were treated as suspicious modern behavior. Every Mark V was assembled at Ford's Wixom Assembly Plant in Wixom, Michigan, alongside the full-size Lincoln Continental. Opened in 1957, Wixom developed a reputation for producing Ford's most prestigious automobiles. The Mark V's complicated trim combinations, vinyl roof treatments, interior materials, designer packages, and extensive equipment placed considerable demands on the plant, but the facility was accustomed to low-volume luxury products requiring more care than an ordinary family sedan. The new model entered dealerships in the fall of 1976 as a 1977 automobile. Depending on how destination and standard charges were calculated, published pricing guides place its basic cost at about $11,400. That was already substantial money, and an enthusiastically optioned example could quickly climb several $1,000s higher. The price did not discourage buyers. Lincoln produced 80,321 Mark Vs for 1977, making the enormous coupe one of the most successful luxury cars of its period. The first-year Mark V introduced the smaller 400 V8 as standard equipment, with the 460 remaining optional outside California. New turbine-style cast aluminum wheels were offered, along with forged aluminum wheels and traditional luxury wheel covers. Michelin steel-belted radial whitewall tires were standard, while Goodyear dual-band whitewalls were available. An inflatable spare replaced the conventional full-size spare in ordinary use, creating more luggage room while adding the excitement of hoping its inflation canister still worked when required. An illuminated entry system became available, keeping the interior lights and door lock cylinders illuminated for approximately 25 seconds after a door handle was lifted. Numerous luxury group combinations allowed buyers to coordinate paint, roof material, body side molding, striping, wheels, and upholstery. Gold cream, cordovan, jade, red rosé, midnight blue cream, and majestic velour themes were among the selections. The Spring Luxury Group combined dove gray and dark blue exterior and interior elements, proving that even springtime could be approached with considerable formality. The Designer Series, introduced on the Mark IV, continued as one of the Mark V's most successful marketing ideas. Blass, Cartier, Givenchy, and Emilio Pucci editions offered carefully coordinated paint, upholstery, roof materials, moldings, wheels, and trim. Each carried the designer's signature in an opera window, identifying graphics on the deck lid and a gold-plated identification plaque inside. Mechanically, they remained Mark Vs, but their presentation allowed buyers to select a luxury coupe, as though choosing an unusually large item from a fashion catalog. For 1977, the Blass edition wore dark midnight blue paint with a chamois roof and chamois leather accented by pigskin textured inserts. The Cartier edition used dove gray paint with a matching roof and gray leather or majestic velour. The Givenchy edition combined dark jade metallic paint with a chamois roof positioned over the front portion of the cabin, an unusual arrangement that became its signature. The Pucci edition appeared in black diamond fire metallic with a white roof and white leather set against black interior components. None was likely to be lost in a crowded parking lot, although the parking lot itself might have been lost behind the car. For 1978, the base price rose to roughly $12,300. Production changes included revisions to the cooling system, heater connections, door locks, and ignition lock. The 400 V8 was detuned to approximately 166 horsepower, while the optional 460 produced about 210 horsepower. Metallic colors began receiving a base coat and clear coat finish, while solid colors retained conventional single-stage paint. The option list became even more imaginative. A white canvas-textured carriage roof gave the appearance of a formal convertible top and replaced the opera windows with interior vanity panels. It could not be combined with the power moon roof, since even a Mark V had to recognize a limit somewhere. Wire wheel covers became available, as did an illuminated outside thermometer, an automatic garage door transmitter installed in the driver's visor, and a 40-channel Citizens band radio with an integrated AM, FM, and CB antenna. The most notable electronic novelty was the optional miles to empty indicator. An amber LED display estimated how far the car could travel using fuel level, speed, and recent consumption. It replaced the ordinary low fuel warning lamp and became one of the first dashboard LED displays used to report a mechanical operating function in an American production car. In a vehicle whose fuel gauge could move visibly under determined acceleration, knowing the distance to the next gas station had practical value. The 1978 Designer Series received new combinations. Blass chose midnight cordovan with a light champagne roof and cordovan upholstery. Cartier used light champagne paint, a matching roof, and a champagne interior with dark red accents. Givenchy selected midnight jade with a chamois forward roof and jade leather-bearing embroidered G emblems. Pucci paired light silver metallic paint with a black roof and dove gray leather accented in dark red. The continuing popularity of the packages demonstrated that Mark V customers were not merely purchasing transportation, they were commissioning an entrance. Ford's 75th anniversary produced the most elaborate Mark V of all, the 1978 Diamond Jubilee edition. Offered in exclusive diamond blue or Jubilee gold, it carried a nearly monochromatic exterior with color-keyed paint, vinyl roof, body moldings, grille accents, wheels, bumper trim, and a padded vinyl panel surrounding the deck lid hump. Clear-coated metallic paint gave the colors additional depth, while a special hood ornament contained a crystal-like insert. Inside, the Diamond Jubilee replaced the usual front lounge seat with individual cloth bucket seats separated by a padded center console. Leather-covered high-wear surfaces and the console provided additional storage, including a compartment for an umbrella. The opera windows carried Diamond Jubilee lettering and simulated diamond chips. A leather-bound owner's manual, a toolkit, special keys coordinated with the interior, and even an available Ford Anniversary cookbook completed the package. Initials could be applied to the doors, allowing owners to remove any remaining uncertainty about whose enormous blue or gold Lincoln had arrived. The Diamond Jubilee package added approximately $8,000 to the price of a standard Mark V. Its price was around $20,500 before the few remaining options and could exceed $21,000 with the optional 460 engine, dual exhaust, moon roof, or CB radio. It was Ford's most expensive production automobile at the time and cost more than many houses had only a few years earlier. Approximately 5,000 were built, with 5,159 commonly quoted as the total. Despite the arrival of smaller luxury cars elsewhere in the industry, the Mark V retained a large following. Lincoln produced 72,602 examples for 1978. Of these, 16,537 were designer series cars, including 3,975 Blass editions, 8,520 Cartier, 917 Givenchy, and 3,125 Puccis. Cartier was comfortably the most popular designer, suggesting that buyers trusted a jeweler to decorate a car whose grille already resembled an expensive piece of silverware. For 1979, tightening fuel economy standards and emissions requirements finally caught up with the engine compartment. The 460 V8 was discontinued, as was the dual exhaust version of the 400. Every Mark V now used the 402-barrel V8, producing approximately 159 horsepower in its final form. The car remained smooth and quiet, but became even more deliberate in acceleration. It did not leap away from traffic lights so much as receive formal notice that it was time to depart. The final year base price was approximately $13,000 to $13,800, depending on the source and the charges included. New entertainment options included an AM/FM stereo with a cassette player and an electronic search tuning radio, combined with a quadrasonic 8-track player. The latter could be controlled by a floor-mounted switch that advanced stations or tape tracks, allowing the driver to operate sophisticated 1979 electronics without removing a hand from the wheel. Luxury wheel covers based on the earlier Mark IV design returned as standard equipment on ordinary cars. Wire wheel covers, forged wheels, and turbine-style aluminum wheels remained available, while several designer series and special edition models received color-keyed wheel accents. The white carriage roof became standard on the Blass edition. The painted metal roof was discontinued, leaving full and Landau vinyl roofs as the expected treatments. The 1979 Blass edition was especially theatrical, with a white upper body over midnight blue metallic, a white carriage roof, and a choice of white or blue leather with contrasting piping and straps. Cartier returned in light champagne, with red-accented champagne upholstery. Givenchy adopted crystal blue metallic with a matching forward vinyl roof and embroidered blue leather. Pucci selected medium turquoise metallic, a midnight blue full vinyl roof, and white leather with blue accents. Personal taste determined whether that combination was daring, delightful, or evidence that the 1970s had become too powerful to control. Luxury groups also continued, offering combinations such as gold cream, cordovan, red rosé, Wedgwood blue, turquoise, champagne, and white. Between these packages, the 4 designer series choices, numerous roof treatments, wheel designs, radios, upholstery materials, and convenience options, a Mark V could be ordered in an extraordinary number of configurations. 2 apparently identical cars could differ considerably once their build sheets were unfolded. The final commemorative model was the 1979 Collector's Series, created as a farewell to the traditional full-size Mark. It carried over much of the diamond Jubilee philosophy, but adopted a darker, more formal personality. It was initially offered in midnight blue, moondust, metallic, and white, with diamond blue, moondust, metallic, and light silver, moondust, metallic added later. Silver and diamond blue cars used midnight blue vinyl roofs, while most blue and white cars received matching roofs. The Collector's Series was distinguished by the deletion of the familiar opera windows. In their place were solid sail panels carrying Collector's Series script, a gold-colored grille, special hood ornament, gold pinstriping, bright-edged fender louvers, color-keyed bumper components, a padded vinyl deck lid accent, coach lamps, and color-keyed turbine-style wheels completed the exterior. The trunk received 18-ounce midnight blue carpeting on both the floor and the underside of the lid, an extravagance that ensured even the luggage traveled first class. The standard Collector's Series interior used midnight blue Casman 2 cloth on individual front seats, with a center console, passenger recliner, rear armrest, padded leather surfaces, special wood tone trim, an umbrella, and extensive standard equipment. A leather interior in midnight blue or white was available as a credit option. Choosing leather actually reduced the price because it substituted twin comfort lounge seating for the more elaborate bucket seat and console arrangement. Power windows, power seats, power locks, automatic temperature control, speed control, tilt steering, illuminated entry, automatic headlights, the miles to empty display, premium sound equipment, and most other Mark V features were included. The cloth version was priced at approximately $21,326, while the leather seat version began at about $20,926. Additional equipment could raise the total beyond $22,000. Lincoln produced 6,262 Collector's Series Mark Vs. Of these, 3,900 were midnight blue, 2,040 were white, 197 were diamond blue, and 125 were light silver. A small number of white examples received unusual roof treatments, and a few may have been ordered without vinyl, making them especially rare today. Contemporary reception of the Mark V was mixed in the most predictable way. Reviewers admired its quietness, soft ride, lavish appointments, distinctive styling, and commanding presence. They also criticized its fuel consumption, slow acceleration with the 400 engine, imprecise handling, long braking distances, and extraordinary exterior size relative to its usable interior room. A period car and driver test recorded approximately 11.9 seconds from 0 to 60 miles per hour, a standing quarter mile in about 18.6 seconds, and fuel economy near 12 miles per gallon. The magazine's test car cost almost $14,750. Placing it in rare company. Yet, criticism of its bulk did little to reduce demand. Many buyers wanted exactly what the Mark V provided: a soft, quiet, conspicuous coupe with unmistakable status and no visible interest in economy car virtues. Its long doors, plush seats, concealed headlights, opera windows, formal grille, and deck lid hump created a shape recognized instantly across several lanes of traffic. It also appeared prominently in popular culture, including television, where its imposing proportions suited wealthy fictional characters rather well. Annual production amounted to 80,321 cars for 1977, 72,602 for 1978, and 75,939 for 1979, giving a 3-year total of 228,862. That made the Mark V the best-selling generation of the modern Continental Mark series. Its success was particularly remarkable because it was expensive, inefficient, and introduced just as the American automobile industry was beginning a fundamental shift toward downsizing. Production ended at Wixom on June 8, 1979. Ford marked the occasion as the end of an automotive era and ceremonially presented the last Collector's Series Mark V to a customer from the Seattle area. The moment was more than a routine model change. Employees knew that vehicles of this scale and style would not return to the line in the same form. For 1980, the Mark V was replaced by the Continental Mark VI. Built on Ford's smaller Panther platform, the Mark VI was substantially shorter and lighter, and it offered both two-door and four-door body styles. It retained the upright grille, concealed headlights, opera windows, and Continental deck lid hump, but the proportions and engineering belonged to a new age of fuel economy and downsized luxury. Sales fell sharply from Mark V levels, suggesting that at least some customers had considered sheer acreage part of the specification. Therefore, while the Lincoln Continental Mark V lasted only 3 model years, it captured the closing moments of a uniquely American kind of automobile. It combined old-fashioned prestige, contemporary fashion branding, elaborate convenience equipment, vast dimensions, and increasingly restricted powertrains in one unforgettable package. It was neither athletic nor economical, and it made no apology for either failing. Instead, it offered comfort, ceremony, and presence on a scale unlikely to be repeated. The Mark V left production not as a sensible solution to the problems of the late 1970s, but as a magnificent refusal to admit that the party was ending.